Welcome back to WhoDooTV. I'm Hoosier. Next up on our Image Expo 2018 press coverage is Annie Wu and her new book, Dead Guy Fan Club.
You are now watching WhoDooTV.
I'm typically a comic book artist, but this is going to be my first book where I'm writing as well. The plan is actually to write, illustrate, color, letter, and design. So this is going to be a really fun new experience for me. The book itself is about a fan club from the early 2000s. It's a bunch of fangirls who are obsessed with this rock star. The book takes place in present day when they're in their late 20s, and their rock star hero turns up dead under mysterious circumstances. And so they reunite to investigate it because they think a member of their old group might be involved. So it's a neo-noir black comedy.
Taking on all the different aspects of putting this book together, did you find, or are you finding that you spoke about anxieties about collaborating on stage, and as you're working through this, I know you said that you're willing to go crazy with it and take it down some weird places, but do you find that there's conflict inside your own head, voices that you're kind of working through that say maybe that's not where I want to go, but the writer part of you is like, yeah, I really want to go there?
Absolutely. So yeah, again, this is my first experience writing something. So at the same time, while I'm working on this book, I'm digging deep into, I'm confronting all my weaknesses in all areas along in the making of this book. So like, anytime I notice that I'm taking some sort of like shortcut or abstracting something because I'm too freaked out to like color it or draw it, I like dig into it and like, why does this like not look right? And then I figure it out. Same with writing. If something doesn't feel quite right, I dig into it and I I'm really into like digging into like story structure type stuff now. I thought dialogue would be my favorite part, but kind of figuring out how everything fits together is really interesting. So as I'm writing, if something doesn't feel right, I'm really enjoying like just stepping back and figuring out what's wrong. So that's the back and forth that's happening in my head.
You have a finite amount of material that you plan on writing. You said you have about 3 arcs.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide between 12 or 15. It kind of depends on some of the stuff that happens in the book, but I know where like the big moments are, and so those are going to be like punctuating the arcs. So it's definitely going to be 3 arcs, just kind of depends on like 12 or 15 issues.
May I ask you about influences, since you're writing this now, a first-time writer in a genre like this, are there influences that you kind of either consciously or unconsciously work through or from in order to put the story structure together?
Yeah, definitely. In terms of tone, I'm not pulling directly from these sources, but like they're my favorite things. So of course, when I write, it's just naturally what's going to come out. Some of my favorite shows are like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia or Peep Show. Is anything that's like just sad people making mistakes. Like I love that. So there's going to be a lot of that. But again, going back to story structure, a lot of my favorite storytellers have very dense and lean stories. So like no fat, like everything is in service of something. It builds character, it moves the story forward, it creates a deeper understanding of the world that the story takes place in. So I really want to make something like that, where you can read the whole thing and then go back and everything has deeper meaning when you revisit it.
About inspiration for your characters, they seem to be pretty well thought out.
Oh yeah, so a lot of them are shades of pulp tropes, so self-destructive, private investigator who smokes way too much. That's something I worried about. I was like, is this like too much smoking in a book? People know like that's not good, right? So I have to like navigate that. We also have femme fatale type, and also like a kind of wild card type person. So yeah, playing with tropes, and then also people that I know from my own life. This is about a fan club from the early 2000s, an online fan club. These characters are the same age as me. I'm turning 30 this year. So I grew up in that period of social media history where it's a bunch of hyper-specific message boards, not organized like it is now, where you click on a hashtag and you find what you want. If there wasn't a board for it, you had to make your own so that others like you would, other people that wanted to talk about British comedy would find you, like that sort of thing. So I met a lot of people that just the things that they express in why they loved something, like that's always stuck with me. There's some people who, it's a bunch of people who can relate to the same person in different ways. Some maybe almost like existentially, some in like a weird romantic sort of way when you're like a teenager and your hormones are crazy, and some others maybe more creatively, seeing like, oh, that's a job I could potentially have when I'm an adult. So a lot of people can see different things in what might be just be one individual. Yeah. Hi.
Have you spoken to other artists who have started writing as well, and kind of gotten any advice from any people who have kind of done that path already? Anyone who's done that?
Have I talked to any writer artists? I don't think so. I haven't reached out to any, but I definitely did look up process stuff or just interviews. Like people like Brian Lee O'Malley, I looked at how much of the work he did himself, because I know early Scott Pilgrim, he was handling a lot of stuff, but then towards the end he got help from other people, and then his next book, when he did Seconds, he had people working on backgrounds with him and like inking and coloring. And so just seeing what people changed about their process to make things easier for them, I looked into, and then I just decided I wasn't going to listen to any of that and do it all myself. So I looked into it, but then I just did my own thing. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite part of the process that you haven't done before that you learned?
A new, it's definitely the writing part. It's almost like a puzzle. Just trying to figure out how everything fits together has been really interesting. Going from figuring out how things work from scene to scene, and then issue, and then arc, and then the entire story. I think that's really fascinating, and that's not something that I can really do in art as much, or at least in the past, because I'm getting an issue from the writer every month. I don't always get like the full scope of the thing. So being able to handle all of that at once is really interesting.
Do you think you've challenged yourself more as an artist by being a writer than what other writers might have done in the past?
Yeah, in some ways. I'm definitely conscious about that. I don't want to avoid something just because I'm too scared to do it. One of the things that I'm not so great at drawing are vehicles, so there's not going to be too many vehicles in this book, but I'm pushing myself in terms of character and quote-unquote acting. I really want to make each character feel like their own person. And when I'm working with a writer, sometimes we might have differing ideas of like what is at the core of a character, and so the way that I make a character act might not be exactly what the writer was expecting, but the way that I'm doing it now is like, I feel like I'm Daniel Day-Lewising it. Like I'm getting really deep into it, and like, yeah. So I know exactly what each character is about instead of just half of it if I'm working with a writer. If that makes sense.
Just thinking about pencils, would you rather pencil for somebody else's script, or do you find it easier to script your own, or to pencil your own script?
That's interesting. Sometimes, I mean, it really depends on the project that, someone else pitched to me, that it would, how much I like penciling it. So it depends on the project for that sort of thing when it comes to collaborations. When I'm working for myself, though, it's weird because I'm not just writing and then doing pencils and then inking. I'm kind of dealing with everything at once. So sometimes when I'm thinking about color, I'm like, how do I want to shift the color script? And that might affect my writing. Or I learned to make my own font so that I can letter with my handwriting. I'm really trying to like dig deep, you guys. I'm trying to like understand every part of the process. So like even the quality of my handwriting is informing my line quality. And so everything, it's all components at once. It's a really, what's the word? Holistic? Yeah, it's a really holistic approach, more than I'm used to.
Thanks, Annie, for spending some time with us, and thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe at WhoDooTV, and also follow us at Twitter at WhoDooTV. And we also want to thank our friends over at Outright Geekery. Check them out for all things geeky.